Alrighty, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to go ahead and get started with today's webinar entitled How to Create a Passive 277 to 416 US dollars per day in income using the internet, using Bitcoin, and also cryptocurrencies. This presentation is being brought to you by the Global Wealth Mastermind. And what you will learn in this presentation is you'll learn a little bit about who I am and what qualifies me to deliver this information. Also going to learn why you have failed to obtain financial independence. You're going to learn our current global financial situation. You're going to learn how our private wealth group may assist you. And then you're going to learn what you need to do after this presentation to take yourself to the next level. All right, so first and foremost, who am I and what qualifies me to deliver this information? All my friends and family call me by my middle name, which is Queen. My full name is Kenitra Cashflow Queen Alam. And that's a picture of me there, a very recent picture a few months ago. That is the book that I published last year. And a little bit more about me. I'm a serial entrepreneur, a best-selling author. Again, that is the book that I published last year, Bitcoin Digital Money, How to Capitalize on the Cryptocurrency Evolution. I'm also an early Bitcoin adopter. I got involved in 2012. And that is the website link there, bitcoindigitalmoney.com, where you can get a copy of the book. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about when I got involved in Bitcoin and blockchain, but I also want to just share also some of the other digital properties and also physical properties, or you can call them digital assets that I own. And when I put this slide together, it almost brought a tear to my eye. I did get a little emotional because, you know, a lot of these were W's, some of these were L's, you know, wins. And you may say L for lose. I say L for learn. But it just shows you, you know, you have to keep whatever your dream is, whatever your vision is for yourself. You have to keep after it. You know, it may not happen the first time, the second time, the 10th time, the 20th time, you know, but if it's something that you're passionate about, and if financial independence and financial freedom is what it is that you're passionate about, you know, you have to keep after it. It's kind of like when you learn how to walk. You know, if your mother would have given up on you when you first tumbled over, you know, you wouldn't be able to walk today. She kept trying, she kept working with you until you got it. And that's the same thing within business. All right. So these are just some of the properties that I own. But anyways, in 2012 was when I got started in Bitcoin and blockchain. Actually, I was exposed to it a lot earlier than that, but I didn't pay any attention to it. I was actually working very deeply in my marketing consulting company, and I can remember getting some information on Bitcoin. At that point, price discovery had happened because it was selling for some change, you know, and I didn't actually. For me, in 2012, it was still very, very difficult to buy Bitcoin. Like, you couldn't go into your Cash App. You couldn't, what are some other ways? You know, there was no Coinbase. There was none of this easy access that we have today. In fact, in 2012 to 2014, I was actually having my consultants, my clients, my marketing consulting clients, to actually pay me in Bitcoin because I saw that this thing was going up in value. So it was an appreciating asset. So I said, okay, because I had some pretty intelligent, high level consulting clients. And I said, look, you know, if you want my marketing services, you know, you need to pay me in Bitcoin. I don't know what this thing is, but it looks to be like it's going to be something. I don't quite know how to buy it right now. You go figure it out. If you want my marketing services, pay me in Bitcoin. And that's what they did. So I was stacking in 2012, through 2014. I was stacking them. And 2014 was when I actually first started. And I think the company was, it's in my book, actually. What was the name of the company? I can't remember the name of the company. But like I said, it's in the book. And that's when I started stacking my first Bitcoins. It was around when I started purchasing It was like, I want to say 300 something dollars or whatever, but I was stacking at under 100 from clients. So, the thing is, being at the right place, being at the right time, but also taking the right action. Okay. So these are some of my truisms. All right. If you have money but no financial sense, your money will soon be gone. It's not how much you make, but how many generations get to spend it. Rich-minded people buy assets. Poor-minded people buy liabilities. Rich-minded people buy assets and let the cash flow produced by liabilities. Assets bring money to you. Liabilities takes money away from you. Without financial literacy, more money won't help you. A lot of people think, well, if I just get a raise, if I can just make a few extra dollars, then I'll be all right. That's not true. You look at people that have won the lottery or have received some type of inheritance. Your financial IQ has to be raised. Your financial literacy has to be at another level, because more money is just going to go into that same mentality, and it's not going to help you. The last truism: it's not always the smart that get ahead. It's the bold. I also wrote about that in my book. Being bold is very, very, very much needed if you want to move yourself into the 1 percentile income wise. All right. Now, why have you failed to obtain financial independence? First thing is not knowing your true self-worth. Not knowing your true self-worth. Let me ask you this question. Do you think that you were incarnated here to work every day, slave away, to pay everybody else except yourself? Do you think that was really the design? No, it was not. Why do you do it? Reason you do it is you don't really understand or overstand your self-worth, right? So when you raise your consciousness around your self-worth, you raise your consciousness around your self-confidence, you no longer accept certain things, okay? And we're gonna talk about that as well. Next thing is you talk yourself out of it. Why have you failed to obtain financial independence? A great opportunity comes your way. A great investment comes your way. A great idea that you have in the middle of the night. And then you talk yourself out of it. You're like, nah, I can't do that. No, I need this. I need that. I'm not smart enough, not tall enough, not skinny enough. You talk yourself out of it, right? That's because the self-worth isn't where it needs to be, and the self-confidence isn't where it needs to be. Because once you improve those things, you'll realize that, if a thought comes your way or an opportunity comes your way, it's coming your way by design. It's coming your way by divine intelligence. So that means you can handle it, you can do it, and it's for you, but you talk yourself out of it. And then last but not least, why you haven't obtained financial independence is you allow someone else to talk you out of it. This is the thing that really unnerves me. When people go to broke people to get advice. How do you go to, like a baker to get advice about maybe mechanic work? Wouldn't it be wise to go to a mechanic to get advice about mechanic work? Yes, that would be very, very wise. I'm actually going to give you, let me just take a sip of tea. I'm going to give you an example. Hang on. Okay, so I'm going to give you a real live example. So I was talking with a client, and I won't mention the name, obviously, to protect their privacy. And this was last year sometime. So talking with a client, he's getting ready to come aboard our private wealth group. And, we talked about everything he needed to do and all the steps and documents and so forth, yada, 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 right? So we were having our last phone call appointment to finalize everything. And he was all excited, ready to go, talking about his objectives and his goals as far as what he wanted to do once he got his investment portfolio set up and everything to help his son, to help his family and all of that. So it was great, and that's who we look for. We look for people that have big goals, big dreams. So the last phone consultation goes like this. I call him up and I'm like, okay, all right, well, let's just dot the I's and cross the T's and get everything going. And he says, well, Queen, I think I'm going to back out. And I'm like, okay, all right, well, all right. I said, out of curiosity, why? Why you're changing your mind? He says, well, you know, I was talking with my neighbor, and my neighbor says that Bitcoin thing it's a scam, and that I'm probably going to lose all my money if I get involved. I said, okay. I said, that's interesting. I said, you know, I've been involved since 2012. Consulted with some really popular hedge funds and other capital aggregators, and you know, family offices, and you know what we've seen as far as the chart. You know, Bitcoin over the last decade has outproduced every other asset class since investments started in this country. So that's really interesting that your neighbor would say that. And I said, you know, out of curiosity, what does your neighbor do for a career? You know, he says, well, by trade he's a heating and air guy, but he's currently unemployed. I said, all right, well, good luck, you know, and much prosperity to you. Click, hang up the phone. So here's the thing, all right? Here's the synopsis. He's taking advice from someone, number one, that's unemployed, number two, that has no knowledge, no expertise in this industry at all, right? So don't allow yourself, number one, to talk yourself out of it if you're not an expert on this, and then number two, don't allow somebody else to talk you out of it, because believe it or not, you know, people will tell you to your face that they want you to succeed and they want you to be great and all this kind of stuff. And silently they're hating on you. And the reason why they're hating on you, they don't mean to. You make people uncomfortable. When you start to change and you start to do things different and you start to excel and grow, you make people uncomfortable. So they want you to stay in your little box, stay in your little lane so that they can feel comfortable, right? So just, you know, get away from those people. Don't let anyone talk you out of it. All right, this graph here, this is actually on the back of my Rich Dad Poor Dad book, and I took a snapshot. I figured it would be great for the presentation because what Robert Kiyosaki says, and I highlighted this here with the red circle, he says the main reason people struggle financially is because they've spent years in school but learned nothing about money. The result is that people learn to work for money, but never learn to have money work for them. And that's really, really, really true. Think about your own schooling. You know, were you ever taught about money? We weren't even taught how to balance a checkbook, you know, let alone, you know, anything else about money. So this is real. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a short video also from Robert Kiyosaki, where he talks about the system is actually set up strategically to keep you poor. So let me play this quick video and I'll be right back.
The school system is actually teaching people to be poor. The school system will never teach you about money. The school system was designed to teach you to be an employee or a doctor or a lawyer, a specialist, but never about money. My father was the head of education, PhD, all that stuff. I go home and ask him, I said, why don't we learn about money in school? And he looked at me and says, because the government doesn't let us teach that subject. The government tells us what we can teach and what we can't teach. And I thought that was strange. And I said, but aren't we going to school to learn about money? He says, no, your job is to get a job. Poverty is passed on. It's taught in your families. And middle class is taught in families. And so the people right now who are sitting at home, who are struggling financially or worried about money or unhappy, they may be making a lot of money, but unhappy with what they're doing, it was probably taught to you. You know, your super ego was taught, get a job, work hard, or you'll never be rich, or the rich are evil, or whatever.
And until you change your mindset,
Correct.
Money won't help you, right?
Correct.
And we see that with people that win the lottery, people that make more money, they still have the same problems.
Right.
Because they have that poor man's soul.
Correct. If you're poor, you'll always be poor.
That's really hard for people to understand.
Yeah, the money will disappear that fast. Just like most pro athletes, you know, they make millions of dollars, and what 65% are bankrupt 5 years later. It's because they come from poor families. Now you tell them that, they get very angry at you. It's not, it's the rich fault. You know, it's you guys ripped me off and government ripped me off. But unfortunately, what Mr. Lipton was saying, it's passed down genetically. The moment I pay you, you think like an employee. That's the trap. Entrepreneurs work for free. The moment you accept the paycheck, your brain goes dead. As long as you're hungry, you'll think. You see people say, well, why don't you give the poor money? So the only problem with that is it just creates more poor people.
Give a man a fish, he fishes for the day, or eats for the day.
Yeah, you give a man a fish, you get a lot of people who want more fish, you know? But you teach them to fish.
But you are the Robin Hood of knowledge, because I see you giving this knowledge out, and do the rich people cringe and say, don't tell them that, Robin?
Yes. Don't tell people what you know. Right. Keep them poor. Poor will always be amongst us, because it starts up here. It's in their words, you know, and the words become flesh. When they say, I can't afford it, or I can't do that, they go down. They become what they say. And I meet so many people, I can't afford it. You think I'm made of money? My PhD dad, he says, what do you think I am, made of money? I can't afford that. And my rich dad would say, that's why he's poor. Poor people say, I can't afford it, I can't do that, I don't have time. Because it's an escape. It's an escape, you know what I mean? It's easy to say, I can't afford it. Oh, I'm too tired. Oh, I can't go to the gym. You know, when you could go to the gym, but no, I can't. Truth is, I'm just too lazy to go to the gym. And
you play it safe, and you don't introduce new risks into your life, and so...
I have job security.
Right. And your rich dad used to say what instead of, I can't afford it?
How can I afford it? How can I do that? You know, what would it take, or why should I do that? A question opens the mind, a statement closes the mind. See, when you say, I can't afford it, your mind shuts down, and you become what you say. You know, people say, well, money is not that important to me. Then if money is not that important to you, money is not important to you. I mean, you know what I mean? I don't care about money. The money doesn't care about you. You know, the word does become flesh. Or I'll never be rich. Or the favorite one is the rich are greedy. It's the poor that are greedy. You know, if you think about it, because to be rich, you have to give something. You know, you have to, I have to produce books and games, and I purchase real estate, I provide housing, provide jobs and all that. That's why I'm rich. But greedy people produce nothing. Oh no, it's the rich that are greedy. And I'm going, hey, sports fans, you know, you point a finger forward, 3 are pointing backwards. And so as we know, there's a big attitude problem against the rich today. We all have fear. You know, to be truthful, we all have fear. It's just how you deal with it. You know, Einstein said, you know, imagination is more important than knowledge, but knowledge empowers imagination. And what most people lack is real business knowledge, like accounting, you know, like debt, like taxes. You got to know that stuff, but they don't teach it in school to anybody. You know, people who are afraid of making mistakes like they teach in school, they don't ever grow. Because spirituality is there's good and there's bad, there's right and there's wrong, there's up and there's down. Most people only want to be right, they only want to be positive. Well, you can't have that, that's not reality. Every time I failed, it was like, good, I said, okay, what have I learned? And the average person, the reason they're poor is they haven't failed. You know, they play it so safe, they haven't made any mistakes like they taught in school, that means they don't learn anything. That's why the school system's actually fundamentally corrupt. It's anti-education. And I think what most people do is they let their parents or their friends talk them out of life. So afraid of failing. But failing is how we succeed. Our schools punish you for making mistakes. And that's why we have so many people who are so afraid of admitting they make mistakes or afraid of failing.
Great information, right? Great information and an eye-opener. All right, so now let's take a look at our current global financial situation. When I typed this into Google, the first website that came up was CNBC, and it went to their world economy section of their site. And what we see here is venture capital flows between China and the U.S., issues there. Oracle laying off more than 900 people in China. China says its April trade surplus of $13.8 billion was far less than expectations. Asia markets fall, Brexit won't be solved, just all different types of global financial situations. Also, 3 headwinds that could cause the next recession. So folks, it's not if there will be another recession, it's when there will be another recession. This is from Reuters here. It says that the U.S. may have to stop borrowing later this year. This comes from the Treasury Department. I'm going to read this real quick. It says the U.S. government will have to stop borrowing money between July and December if Washington doesn't agree to raise a legal restriction on public debt, the Treasury Department said on Wednesday. Hitting that so-called debt ceiling could trigger a U.S. default on its debt and an immediate recession, a risk that has become a regular facet of U.S. politics over the last decade. Yeah, since the last financial crisis, 2007-2008. This is from Investopedia. This is kind of bringing it home here, right? So we talked about global issues, but now let's kind of bring this thing home. Are we in a baby boomer retirement crisis? And this again comes from Investopedia. Baby boomers born between 1946 and 1964 are heading into retirement in droves, about 10,000 a day. Along with the aging of this iconic cohort comes lots of data about their poor preparation for their latter years, a calamity that will reach ahead in the next 10 years. Insufficient preparedness, a lack of financial resources coupled with on and off employment paint a gloomy picture for many retirees. And we can see this in our day-to-day. Just, when you go shopping, different department stores, you see elderly workers there. They're not there because they want to be there. They're there because they have to be there, right? They have to be there because of poor planning on their part, or it could be, they lost a lot in the last financial crisis. This article comes from CNBC. Again, this is baby boomers face more risk to their retirement than previous generations. These generations' members hold less wealth, are deeper in debt, and will face higher expenses than retirees a decade older than them, according to a new report by the Stanford Center of Longevity. Boomers who run out of funds towards the end of life will either fall back on children, who by then will be in their 50s and 60s, or the social safety network, said Julia Streeter, a research scientist at Stanford. I don't know, the social safety network. There is no social safety network. So I'm not sure if she's talking about Social Security or what exactly she's talking about there, because we all know Social Security is bankrupt and then there is no other social safety network, right? So the thing is, you've got to either get it straight yourself or, you're going to be in trouble. Will we survive the next financial crisis? Again, folks, it's not if there's going to be another financial crisis. It's just a matter of when. This indicator shows that we're getting dangerously close to the next recession. You can see this graph here. And you can measure the yield curve in a number of ways. Now, the most common is the 10 to 2-year yield curve. The difference between rates on 10-year U.S. Treasuries, which yield 2.52%, and 2-year Treasuries, which yield 2.31%. The difference is just 21 basis points. So we're talking 0.21% right now. In other words, the yield curve is extremely close to inverting. That doesn't happen, folks. But when it does, spells trouble. So an inverted yield curve preceded the past 7 recessions. The past 7 recessions. This is what we're looking at. And this article here was written in 2017. And it's titled here, The Fed Launched QE, which is quantitative easing, 9 years ago. Quantitative easing is just, well, I'll just read the article and it'll explain to you. So 9 years ago, the United States was deep into a financial crisis. GDP growth was contracting at the fastest rate in 50 years, and the economy was losing hundreds of thousands of jobs each month. The Fed funds target rate, the interest rate charged by commercial banks to other banks who are borrowing money, was already close to zero. But the U.S. Central Bank took unprecedented steps to lower interest rates even further. The Fed launched quantitative easing, ultimately buying trillions of dollars of government bonds and mortgage-backed securities. So folks, we've had interest rates close to zero for the last decade. Borrowing money right now is so cheap. So it's not just commercial banks that get access to this. You too can get access to this. You just need to know the rules of the game. All right. That's what our Private Wealth Club teaches you, is the rules of the game. Between 2008 and 2015, the Fed's balance sheet, its total assets ballooned from 900 billion to 4.5 billion. And this graph comes from CNBC. That's the source. So you can see there where it kind of started in 2008 and then 2015. That's a huge jump. And this is debt, folks, that we all have to pay, and our children have to pay. The Fed's low interest rate policy made it inexpensive for the government to continue to borrow and spend. U.S. public debt is near 20 trillion, and some fear that bubble could burst as the Fed steps out of the government market. Again, folks, scary graph. Now, this little paper here, and I talked about this here in my book on page 71. And I want you to put this down in your notes. If you're taking notes, you need to read this. It's an 18-page document. This thing got me so afraid and got me to really making adjustments and changes within my finances and portfolio and so forth. But this was put out in 2012. It's a FDIC and Bank of England joint paper. And what this 18-page document is basically saying, so when we went into the financial crisis in 2008, we had a lot of bailouts, right? They're still looking for that $9 trillion that they lost. But at any rate, there were a bunch of bank bailouts, too big to fail, all this money passed out. None of this stuff trickled down to us. It all went to the upper echelons that run the world. So they're no longer going to have bank bailouts because that's too obvious, right? That's too obvious. So now there's a terminology called bank bail-ins. That's why you need to read this document. Bank bail-ins is basically where banks that are classified as globally active, systemically important financial institutions, right? Anytime that they go insolvent or they go in the red, they have the ability through this joint paper by law to shave off whatever percentage they deem necessary to get themselves back together. And what I mean by shave off, that means if you have, say, for example, you've got, 100,000 sitting in an account at one of these banks. Well, if they go insolvent, they start going in the red, they have the ability to take, 25%, 30%, 40%, 50% of your money that's sitting in the bank. It's at their disposal. Why are they able to do that? They're able to do that is because when you go into the bank and you open up an account, if you read your disclosure statements, that money no longer belongs to you. You just acquiesced. You just loaned that money to the bank. So you're now a creditor of the bank. So this document says that creditors takes the haircut first if we need to, right? So you no longer own those funds. I'll explain this even further why you no longer own those funds. So say you go in, you deposit $100,000 in a checking account, right? You no longer own the funds. The bank can do whatever they want to do with those funds. Let's just say they loan me that $100,000, right? Or they loan me some of it, right? At 20% interest. Maybe it's an auto loan or something. So they loan it to me for 20%. They give you in a checking account zero, right? Unless you have like a interest-bearing checking account. But even with an interest-bearing checking account or like a CD, right, which is supposed to be the top banking product out there, it's still less than 1%. It's still less than 1%. So they're loaning your money out for 20% and giving you less than 1%. So guess who's keeping the 19% spread? They are, the bank, right? So they legally can, print money. You have the same ability once you know the rules of the game. So what's the key? The key is to put your wealth into an investment vehicle that hedges against inflation and that hedges against a declining fiat, right? Two great ways to do that. One is Bitcoin, and we're going to talk deep in Bitcoin. And the other, everyone knows, is gold, right? What do all central banks, what do all high net worth individuals, what do all family offices, what do they have on reserve? They have gold on reserve so that they can hedge the inflation and they can hedge the fiat, right? The fiat, the declining fiat. Because, if you take 20 bucks today from 20 bucks, 20 years ago, you get less products and services with that same $20. That's because the printing press, the quantitative easing, the more printing of money, the less that your money is worth. All right. So that's the key. And we're going to teach you through our private wealth group exactly how you can, in essence, become a banker and print money at will also, right? Remember, rates are almost zero. Very, very cheap. Very, very cheap to get money. So let's talk about that, how our private wealth group may assist you. The first thing is we need to raise your financial IQ, obviously, right? If your financial IQ was off the charts, you probably would not be here on the webinar with me this afternoon, right? So we need to raise your financial IQ. In raising your financial IQ, that also raises your awareness. So now you are aware of more opportunities for you financially. See, a lot of people, Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, it's not on their radar because their financial IQ is low, and so their awareness of it is low, right? So Bitcoin, it peaked in the last quarter of 2017. Why? Not because people got so much more intelligent the last quarter of 2017, but it peaked because of the media. The media was saying on the news, they even had one news station that was showing people how to buy Ripple, at a very, very high cost. But anyways, it was on the news. It was everywhere, right? So people's financial IQ didn't go up. It was just in the mass media. But folks, here's the thing. Good investment opportunities, once it's on the news and it's in mass media, the good profits have already been taken, right? So we want to raise your financial IQ. Another thing how our private wealth group may assist you is giving you access to alternative financial strategies that have been safeguarded from average retail investors. All right. So most of your average retail investments are 401k plans, mutual funds, whole life insurance policies that may have a cash value option. Those are safe, retail investments. Safe retail investments doesn't get you to that financial number that you need to retire, right? It doesn't get you that passive cash flow that you want on a monthly basis to live the lifestyle that you want to live, right? So you need access to alternative financial strategies that's reserved for sophisticated, savvy investors. And so what may be looked at as high risk to a retail investor, a more savvy, sophisticated investor that has their financial IQ raised or elevated, it doesn't look high risk, okay? And so it's all about education. It's all about education. The next thing how our private wealth group may assist you is assisting you in raising investment capital up to $250,000, right? Assisting you in raising investment capital up to $250,000. The thing is, when you start an investment portfolio, in order for that investment portfolio to mitigate risk, in order for that investment portfolio to really produce for you, is you want to be able to have your capital in as many financial markets as possible, spread across as many traders as possible, spread across as many different investment strategies or algorithms. Okay, so a lot of people, they feel like, okay, they're going to enter into investing and they're going to start small. So they're going to put, maybe 5,000-10,000 in with one trader with one market. That's the highest extreme risk that you could ever do, right? So you need capital to spread across traders, to spread across markets. So that's why we assist you in raising that capital. Okay, so and it doesn't matter where you are credit wise, where you are financially. If you follow your wealth coach, they will coach you to getting capital that you need. All right. Next thing how our private wealth group may assist you is giving you lifetime access to our Bitcoin and cryptocurrency education. Folks, remember, Bitcoin came out in 2009. We got involved 2012, right? And it's an ever changing, ever evolving ecosystem. So like if you go somewhere, say an institution, to learn about Bitcoin, they're going to be teaching you Bitcoin from 2009 or Bitcoin from 2010. That's not the same Bitcoin as it is today. So our educational curriculum for our Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is a living, breathing curriculum. So we update right now. We're making some updates because there's been some changes within the ecosystem. And last but not least is access to like minds around the globe at our exclusive private training / vacation getaways. The thing about reaching financial independence and reaching your goals financially, the key is really to get around people that make more money than you do. I mean, point blank. You want to be around people that make a lot more money than you. I don't know who said this statistic, but they said if you take the closest 5 people around you and you average their annual salaries, then typically that's around what your average annual salary is. And if you do that computation and you see that that's not the number where you want to be, the thing is you have to change your circle. You want to be around 6, 7, 8, 9 figure net worth people so that you can grow. If you're the smartest one in your circle, you need to create another circle where you can learn, where you can grow. Okay. So now let's talk and dive in and talk a little bit about Bitcoin. Let me just take another sip of tea. All right, Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. This is the first page from the 8-page white paper. Again, came out 2009 in response to the 2007-2008 subprime financial crisis. So, what Bitcoin, let me give you the layman's term definition. Bitcoin allows you to transact value of any amount to anyone in the world without any third party interference. Okay, so if you go to your bank and you want to wire, say, anything over 10,000 US, they're going to ask you a whole bunch of questions. You have to fill out a whole bunch of forms. They treat you like a criminal, and it's your own money, but they don't want you to move that money, obviously, because they can loan it to me 20%, give you less than 1%. But anyway, I don't want to digress. So that's that. Also, try to go into the U.S. Post Office and say you take cash and you want to purchase money orders. Maybe you don't want to hold your cash in cash, but you want to buy money orders because U.S. Postal Office money orders, they never expire. You can always go back in, cash them out, whatever. But if you want to buy more than over 3,000, they also treat you like a criminal, right? So you're being treated like a criminal on your own money. Bitcoin allows you to not have those experiences, right? So if you wanted to send me 10 grand, 100 grand, a million, whatever it was, you can send it. I can receive it within 10 minutes. It's confirmed on the network. I've got it, and we don't have to go through the hassle and all the things with the bank and so forth. But let me read you the technical from the white paper. It says a purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash would allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without going through a financial institution. This is what got me very excited when I learned about this, right? Avoiding banks, avoiding financial institutions. Oh, I'm in. Digital signatures provide part of the solution, but the main benefits are lost if a trusted third party is still required to prevent double spending. We propose a solution to the double spending problem using a peer-to-peer network. All right, so folks, Bitcoin is not owned by any one person. Bitcoin is not owned by a government, a bank, an entity, one corporation. It's not owned. It's a distributed network. So just think of, millions and millions of computers. I'll just break it down like this. Think of millions of computers spread out all over the world, right? Each of these are connected. They're called nodes, and they're connected into and running the Bitcoin protocol on their servers, right? And they confirm the network, they confirm the transaction, and they secure the network. So each of those servers, if you will, or nodes, as a whole collectively is the entire network. All right. So there's no 1, 2, 3 Bitcoin street where, some authority could go and shut it down. You literally would have to turn off the internet to shut Bitcoin down, right? That's the power of it. The network timestamps transactions by hashing them into an ongoing chain of hash-based proof of work. forming a record that cannot be changed without redoing the proof of work. Basically, what that means is once I send you Bitcoin, I can't call up my credit card company and say, could you please reverse that charge and send my Bitcoin back? Because I don't know, I don't like them, or whatever the reason may be, right? That's a centralized system. This is a distributed system. So once I send that Bitcoin to you, it's yours. There's no reversing, right? There's no reversing. So the longest chain not only serves as proof of the sequence of events witnessed, but proof that it came from the largest pool of CPU power. Some of this gets a little technical, so don't worry about it. That's why I'm breaking it down for you. As long as a majority of CPU power is controlled by nodes that are not cooperating to attack the network, they'll generate the longest chain and outpace attackers. Folks, Bitcoin is probably one of the most sought after networks that hackers are trying to figure out and hack. Reason being is because if they figure it out, right now the market cap, I want to say, is about 110 billion. Bitcoin just surpassed about 6,300 or so over the last few days. So there's a large prize. The Bitcoin protocol to date has never been hacked. The network itself requires minimal structure. Messages are broadcast on a best effort basis, and nodes can leave and rejoin the network at will, except in the longest proof of work chain as proof of what happened while they are gone. All right, that is Bitcoin. So, how we use money. So typically, how we use money, right? I'm talking fiat dollars. And for those of you that are outside of the U.S., whatever your national currency is, right? So we typically would use that to store value, right? So we take our labor, take our intellectual property, whatever it is that you do for money, and then you exchange that for your national currency, either on your job or if you work for yourself. However you do it, you exchange that for a store of value and you hold it in dollars, right? It's also how we use money is we exchange it for value, right? So now you can take those fiat dollars, you can go to the store, you can buy some bread, you can buy some milk, you can buy whatever it is you buy. Don't buy milk. If you buy milk, buy almond milk. That's a whole sidebar. But anyway, you get the example, right? And then next thing is an accounting value, right? So that's typically how we would use traditional fiat money. Now let's look at Bitcoin for storing value, okay? So Bitcoin is a finite resource, or a finite asset is a better term. There's only 21 million Bitcoin that will ever be produced. And on this graph here, what you see where it started in 2009, and as time progresses, right, every 4 years, the Bitcoins get less and less and less and less and less, meaning less Bitcoin are produced, right? So once the 21 million coins are all produced via the miners, then that's it. This is what makes it finite. And this is why some people make the terminology of Bitcoin being liquid gold or digital gold, is because it's a finite 21 million. There will only be 21 million, no more. And then we have miners, right, that support the network, confirm the network, and so forth. So Bitcoin has shown to be a better store of value over the last decade than even gold. Now let's look at dollars for storing value, right? You see this graph is not going up, but it's going down. So if you look at, in this source, this is from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, and this followed the dollar from 1913 to 2011. You see the purchasing power. $1 in 1913 was, $1, right? Because it was still tied to gold at that point. So gold was backing it. We were taking off the gold standard in 1971 or so. So it just became free floating. So they just print as much as they want. So now today, the dollar has lost over 90% of its purchasing power. And this is why people use things like Bitcoin, things like gold to preserve and hedge from the declining fiat. All right, so let's look at Bitcoin's monetary report card. All right, and this is just kind of reiterating some of the things that I've already gone through. But number one, scarcity. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. Transferability. It can be sent between anyone at any time, anywhere in the world, any amount. Durability. A Bitcoin never decays, right? It's a digital protocol. Portability. It can be stored inside your brain. Right? You can store your private keys inside your brain if you chose to, right? So, if you travel from one location to the next via commercial airline, anything over 10,000 in value as far as money that you have to report that. Excuse me. So the portability, your wealth can be stored in Bitcoin digitally, right? That's why it says it's also seizure resistant. Verifiability, a Bitcoin cannot be faked. It cannot be faked. You have counterfeit money, counterfeit dollars. They're making that harder and harder, but it still happens in some areas. Fungibility, all Bitcoins are the same. There's no difference. And then divisibility. So it is a great, great source of value. It's the only way that we take payment in our private wealth club. All right, so now let's actually talk about that. Let's talk about, and I'm only going to talk about our first membership level within our private wealth group. And I will say this, it's a very, very, very strict requirement as far as you qualifying. This is not the type of, I would say, group where just because, say, you have the funds to get in, that you're just going to be automatically accepted. No, it doesn't work that way. So what's included in the Gold educational package? First off, like I said, membership is not open to everyone. You absolutely have to qualify. You have to go through a qualification process because we're a tight-knit family. We're really a tight-knit family, and our goal is really to help each of our members to get to where they want to be financially, and then even more from there, because we do a lot of private investments together. And it's just a tight-knit family, so you've got to qualify, period. Next thing is what's included. You're going to know all the ins and outs of Bitcoin, from the setup to the trading to making money with it, as well as other cryptocurrencies, because there's now probably over about 2,000 or so other cryptocurrencies out there. And a lot of them are junk, but you need to know that. You need to be educated on that so you can spot that. And that's what we do as well, right? So you can spot the fakes or the projects that are full of hot air, and so forth. Also, proper wallet setup and backup. I've heard so many horror stories of people losing their coins because they didn't properly set things up. They didn't write things down. They lost their private keys, so forth and so on. So securing your digital asset coins, right? Want to make sure that we get you the knowledge, the education, so that you can secure your coins. And remember, again, this part of our educational package is digital. It's a living, breathing curriculum. So as things get updated within the ecosystem, then our course gets updated, and you get lifetime access to that once you qualify to become a member. Also, exchanges. You're going to learn how to deal with exchanges, ICOs, IEOs, PPOs in the crypto space. All right. Initial coin offerings, initial exchange offerings, private placement opportunities. All right. You're going to learn all of that. Now, when we looked at what other, college or institution had a course just even halfway similar to what we offered, we found one site, and this is Blockchain Initiative, the company. They're out of Cyprus, and their course is not a living, breathing course, but it gives you a lot of good nuggets for you to learn about Bitcoin and crypto and blockchain and so forth. But when you look at the fee, they're charging €1,600 per course. And the total fee, if you want to do the entire master's program, is what they're calling it. It's €12,800 for their course. All right. So, what is the cost of our course? Our course, again, you have to be qualified. Let me just share with you what I mean by qualification. And I'm going to talk about this again at the end. There's another training that you have to go through. It's about a 2-hour training. Really kind of gives you a snapshot of what our traders have been able to do historically, and gives you some other additional information. And then you fill out an application. It's an intense application, right? If your application gets approved, then there's an interview process with the wealth coach, right? Once you pass that interview process with the wealth coach, then and only then will you be offered membership and the ability to pay. Okay, so just because you may have the funds to pay doesn't mean you're just going to naturally get granted access. So our gold package, everything I talked about here, and I'm going to go through it again, it's $3,500 one time, and all of the payments are taken in Bitcoin only. And your wealth coach will walk you through that once you're approved to process your payments. So the yearly access on this level of membership is $600 a year. So if you get granted access, the first cost that you're looking at is $4,100 US. Okay, that's peanuts compared to what you're getting. So you're getting the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency industry education, again, how to properly set up accounts to purchase cryptocurrency and secure your digital assets, monetizing the cryptocurrency space, working with exchanges, identifying profitable ICOs, mining opportunities, how to purchase crypto inside your retirement account. And this next bullet right here is really worth the entire membership. Access to investment capital up to $250,000 US. Now, your wealth coach is going to work with you on this. Again, it doesn't matter where you are credit-wise. It doesn't matter where you are financially. We help you build all of that up so that you become lendable, and there you go. Also, once you have your capital, you get access to a Rolodex of our professional Forex traders. So our Forex traders who have a track record of above average returns, right? So now you've got that capital. Remember I told you, you want to have your capital spread across as many different financial markets as you can and as many different traders as you can that have many different strategies. So here within this level of our membership, you get access to our Forex traders and you can actually start spreading across within the Forex market. Once you move up into our other higher level membership package, you'll get access to more different markets and many different traders. So really what you're looking at here is really a perfect business model, right? So when we talked about the up to 416 US dollars per day when we first started the webinar, this is how you do it. You've got capital placed with professional traders that produce monthly above average returns. You're hands-free. You're not depending on your knowledge of the markets and charts and things of that nature, but the traders are trading for you. So this is really a perfect business model, right? So there's no employees to worry about. There's no administration, no products, right? You don't have to try to sell products to people. There are no customers, right? And no competitors. So it's a perfect business model. It's hand-free, and it allows you to start producing the income if you need, income like to replace maybe income that you have right now. So you can do an income strategy, right? And your wealth coach will work with you on that, where you have a monthly income strategy, and then also you have a retirement strategy set up as well for the future. So they'll work with you on both of those, and then that way this frees you up from slaving away, at a job or, whatever it is you're doing right now for money. It'll free you up from that and give you the type of lifestyle that you want to live, right? That's really the cool thing. And also, just recently, we, and this came from our members requesting, but we also have an additional way that you can earn daily Bitcoin. And we'll talk more about that. There's a detailed video that you'll get on that once you're granted an interview, and it'll share with you basically how you can be paid for making referrals into our private wealth group. But you have to remember, everyone that you send won't necessarily get approved, right? It's an intense process, all right? So they're going to go through the same process that you went through. So what happens is, if you refer someone and they get granted access to become a member, then the wealth coach would receive 25% of the tuition on whatever membership level they chose, and then you would receive 75% on the membership level. So let me see what that number would be for like our gold membership. So just to give you an example, all right, so let's see, 3,500, 75%. All right, so that would be 2,625 US dollars, but that would be paid directly in Bitcoin, and that would be sent directly to your Bitcoin wallet, okay, instantly. All right, so that's just a sidebar, but you can get more. You'll get more information on that once you get granted access to an interview. Okay. So, what do you need to do next? Well, you know, if this information resonates with you, what you want to do is you want to make a decision to commit to financial independence, right? You want to make a decision to commit to financial independence and wealth creation, okay? Because, you know, sometimes we think it's nice to talk about financial independence. It's nice to talk about being rich. It's nice to talk about being wealthy. But then a lot of people, they don't want to do what they need to do and make a commitment. See, being committed and being interested are two different things. So you need to make a commitment if this resonates with you. If it doesn't, no harm, no foul, right? The next thing is go through the 2-hour pre-approval training, right? Remember I told you there's a 2-hour pre-approval training that you need to go through. And this is going to give you more in-depth knowledge on the whole overall picture of our entire private wealth group and what it looks like for you. Also, you'll get to hear from one of my partners as well. And you'll see, like, from the last 2-3 years of what our traders have been able to produce for our members. So you get to see that as well, okay? Then after that, you want to fill out the application for membership. All right. So you fill out the application for membership. Again, it's a detailed application. Go through, fill all of that information out, put everything in there, be honest, be ethical, and make sure that you fill everything out completely. After you've submitted your application, if your application is approved, you want to be ready for your interview with your wealth coach. And what I mean by that is, you're going to be sent a link so you can set up a day and a time to actually have your interview. You want to be ready. You want to be in a nice, quiet area. You want to make sure that you've got pen and paper and be ready, all right, for your wealth coach to contact you and go through the interview, right? If you're in a noisy area, if you're not ready, it's quite possible that your application will be discarded and will be canceled. Right? So that's why I'm stressing the importance of this. If you get all the way to that point, you want to make sure that you're ready. Okay. So the last thing that you want to do is you want to go to this website right here to start the process. You want to go to and that's the number 1000perday.com. And that's all spelled out. So it's the number 1000perday.com. And go there and fill out the information and get the ball rolling. All right. Well, hey, have a great afternoon. I want to wish you good luck. I shouldn't even say luck. I don't believe in luck, right? I believe in divinity. I believe in prosperity. So I want to wish you much prosperity. And thanks for joining me this afternoon on the presentation. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.